Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating. We're going to look at just 7 incredibly profound lines of text that actually build a flawless, complete architecture for human guidance. I mean, to put this into perspective, variations of this exact framework are literally recited billions of times a day all around the globe. It's an absolute masterclass in taking massive, complex ideas and distilling them down to their absolute essence. So let's explore this path of divine guidance, mapped out in just 7 short sentences.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to anchor ourselves right at the climax of the text. Often, the absolute best way to understand a journey is to just look at the destination first. So here, the text explicitly asks, "Guide us to the straight path, the path of those you have blessed." Now, before we even try to unpack how the text gets us to this point, we really have to understand that this, right here, is the ultimate goal. The whole framework we're about to explore, it exists for one reason: to lead the reader to make this specific, highly targeted request.
So that brings us to a pretty big question. How exactly do 7 short lines perfectly map out the entire human quest for guidance? Well, to answer that, we're going to trace what I like to call a funnel arc. Just imagine a massive funnel. We're going to start at the very top, looking through the absolute widest possible lens, like the cosmic scale of existence. And then from there, we're going to logically, methodically zoom all the way down through that funnel. We'll narrow our focus step by step until we arrive at a single, incredibly intimate point of human action. I am so excited to show you how this works.
All right, let's start at the top of that funnel with Section 1, Attributes of the Divine.
Right off the bat, this text establishes the vast cosmic authority of the divine over literally everything in existence. It says, "In the name of God, Lord of the worlds." It completely forces you to confront a scale that's honestly way beyond human comprehension. The focus here isn't on you or me yet, it's on the entirety of the worlds, meaning everything that is, both known and unknown. It's laying down the ultimate foundation of authority.
Now, pure authority all by itself? That could be pretty terrifying if there's no context. But the text immediately pairs that immense cosmic authority with 2 very specific traits, the gracious and the merciful. These show up right in the very first line, and then, this is key, they're explicitly repeated in line 3. That deliberate repetition is just so important. It shows us how the text is intentionally balancing all that cosmic power with an overwhelming sense of compassion. The Lord of the worlds isn't some distant, indifferent force. This is an authority fundamentally defined by grace and mercy.
Moving further down the funnel, we hit Section 2, the ultimate accountability.
You see, acknowledging the Lord of the worlds naturally leads us right to our next point, which is ultimate cosmic accountability. The text introduces the master of the day of judgment. So we've moved from the creation of everything and the present state of mercy directly into the culmination of time itself. It establishes that there's a finality to all of this, a definitive point where that cosmic authority actually evaluates existence. It gives real, heavy weight and consequence to the framework we're building here.
And this creates such a perfect, undeniable, logical progression that totally bridges the first half of our text to the second half. Think about it. Step 1, you acknowledge the vast authority of the Lord. Step 2, you recognize the ultimate accountability of judgment. And because you've established those 2 massive cosmic realities, step 3 logically follows. You offer worship. Once you're in that state of worship and submission to that power, well, step 4 is just a natural result. You ask for help. It really is just a seamless flow of logic.
Which brings us right into Section 3, Devotion and Seeking Help.
It is you we worship, and upon you we call for help. This line right here, this is the heart of the entire 7-line structure. It's the exact pivot point where everything dramatically shifts. Up until now, for the first 4 lines, the text was describing God in the third person. But now, suddenly, the speaker is addressing the divine directly in the second person. The whole perspective has completely flipped from this macro cosmic observation down to direct, intimate human action.
And notice the deliberate choice of words here. It restricts this devotion entirely. It doesn't just casually say, "We worship you." It says, "It is you we worship." It is a completely exclusive statement. The plea for ultimate assistance is directed to the divine alone. There's absolutely zero room left for intermediaries. The human being is now standing face to face, metaphorically speaking, with the Lord of the worlds. We've narrowed the entire universe down to this single, direct channel of communication.
Now we reach the action phase in Section 4, the straight path.
Think about this for a second. Out of absolutely everything a human being could possibly ask the master of the day of judgment for, I mean, we're talking wealth, health, peace, success, anything. This text frames the straight path as the single ultimate necessity.
The plea for help is finally given a very specific, focused direction. You've recognized the universe, you've recognized judgment, you've offered exclusive worship, and your one singular request is simply the guidance to navigate through all of it correctly.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, 3 distinct destinations.
This final verse lays out the only 3 possible trajectories for humanity, at least according to this framework. You have the path of those who are blessed, those who face anger, and those who are misguided. Ultimately, these 7 lines assert that every single human life falls neatly into one of these 3 distinct buckets. So, let's break them down a bit.
First up, this straight path we just talked about. It's not just some empty theoretical concept. It is a worn trail that has been successfully walked by those who have already received divine blessing. Unpacking this first category, those you have blessed, we see it really represents the ideal outcome. It implies that divine favor is something actively bestowed on you, not just something you passively stumble upon. Actually being on this path is the ultimate practical manifestation of being guided.
Now, to really understand this ideal path, the text draws a stark contrast with 2 very different types of failure. On one side, you have those facing anger. Now, this implies a pretty severe state, perhaps someone who knows the truth but is actively rejecting or violating it. But then, on the other side, you have the tragedy of simply being misguided. These are the folks who are just lost, wandering, completely lacking the knowledge or direction of that straight path. So the text is actually asking for protection from both malice and ignorance alike.
And with that, our funnel is complete. Honestly, in just 7 lines, we have traveled an incredible distance. We started by looking way up at the Lord of the worlds, trying to grasp the infinite scale of a gracious and merciful Creator. We acknowledged the finality of time itself. We established a direct, exclusive connection of worship. And finally, we narrowed all of that vast, cosmic reality down to a laser-focused plea for our own 2 feet. The request to be guided on the straight path, safely kept away from anger and misguidance. It truly is a masterpiece of structural efficiency, taking the entire human experience of seeking purpose and distilling it into just a handful of words.
But you know, the text doesn't just explain the universe, it demands introspection. It leaves us with a stark reality. There are only 3 trajectories mapped out in this ultimate framework of divine guidance: the blessed, the objects of anger, or the misguided. So, looking at your own life, your own choices, and your own direction today, which of the 3 paths are you walking?